today I want to introduce you to the Ranger Roll sleep system and explain why, even though it is completely outdated now, there are more modern alternatives out there. This is still one of my most favourite pieces of military surplus and something that I personally use all the time, although not necessarily in the way it was intended to be. Now, the Ranger Roll is a relatively lightweight sleep system and it consists of two main parts, a military poncho and then a poncho liner. Now, you can carry them both sort of independently. That has the advantage that you can get to the poncho quickly if it starts to rain, or you can carry it pre-made up in something like a poncho roll. And this is how I've got mine today, in an old poncho roll that I got back when I was an instructor. And this particular one is based on the old 58 pattern webbing, the old British 58 pattern webbing that is, but it's in more modern material. This is in MTP and it is waterproof. Now, the advantage of carrying it ready made up is obviously it's quicker to deploy if you're going to use it as a sleep system, but also it means you can carry this outside your rucksack, save space. This protects it from getting torn on the undergrowth. And if you do get wet, it means you can put it back in this, either back in your bag or tied it outside of your rucksack, and it means all your kit isn't going to get wet. So these are definitely worth investing in and something I would recommend. So let's have a look at how it looks inside this poncho roll. So all you need to do is undo your clips here, and then as you can see inside, it is already made up and it's ready to go. Now, there is an advantage to this, and that is when the ground's already wet, like it is today, I've got less chance of getting this sort of damp on the inside because it's protected by the poncho already. So while having the poncho out, being able to use the poncho by itself is good, this way has advantages too. So all I'm going to do now is just throw that out there. Notice I'm leaving a lot more material this side than I am on this side. So then all you do is throw this over yourself, pop it together using the poppers, and you've got yourself a very basic shelter. And the key word here is basic, because this is a really basic shelter and there are far better, more modern alternatives out there now. While the Ranger Roll still gets a lot of love online, I think a lot of that is probably sentimental because maybe guys used that in the forces and it's all that they had at the time. I think we've got to recognise now that this came out during the Vietnam War, so it's over 50 years old now, and we can just make better stuff through improved material science. Now, if we take the outer shell, for example, obviously this is just a poncho, it is 100% waterproof, but the way we seal ourselves up inside is not. We just close it with poppers, so you have got these gaps in between where the rain can get through, and also all the bugs and creepy crawlies can get in. So we've got to try and arrange it so that, the rain isn't going to run into there. If you go for a more modern alternative, like a bivy bag, it's going to be sealed at the bottom and then sealed all the way up the sides as well. Now, if you've gone for a hoop bivy like I've got, you can seal yourself up at the top completely, so you're 100% enclosed all the way around. But even with a more basic sort of hooded bivy, it's still better sealed than this is. And then you've got the insulation layer, the poncho liner, and they weigh about 800 grams, possibly a bit more, depending on which one you go for. But I wouldn't want to take mine out lower than about, say, 15 degrees Celsius, even though I was wearing trousers and things, because it really has been designed for that kind of tropical environment. Now, if I compare this to a modern sleeping bag, this also weighs 800 grams, but I would be comfortable with this in just my underwear down to about 7 degrees Celsius. So this gives me a far greater range of temperatures where I can use this comfortably and safely. So for the weight, it's just a much more modern and much more warmer alternative. So if the modern alternatives are so much better at allowing me to seal myself up and will keep me that much warmer, why would I ever choose the Ranger Roll system over one of the more modern alternatives? Well, the answer is really simple, and that is sometimes I don't want to seal myself up and I definitely don't want to be any warmer. Now, in the UK, over the last 6 weeks or so, we've had a major heat wave and it has been incredibly hot here. So 32 to 30 degrees Celsius during the day, and then some nights it hasn't dropped below about 17 degrees Celsius. And while, in some countries that might seem nothing, in the UK, that's pretty hot for us and we don't have aircon. And even just getting into my bivy bag at night, it has been too hot and stuffy, even without any sort of sleeping bag. And that is where the Ranger Roll system comes in, because it has been designed for that kind of hot tropical environment, and so it really excels in this hot weather. Now, a couple of advantages. The first one is the insulation layer isn't too much, so you're not overheating. air circulates really well still because it's just poppers, you're not kind of fully sealed in. And the third kind of bonus advantage is that material is quite good at kind of blocking the light, but because it is so light as well and kind of airy, you can throw it over your face. And I've been using it as kind of like a blackout blind by throwing it over my face and not feeling kind of too stuffy underneath there. So I think for the summer and the really hot weather, particularly where you haven't got rain planned, it is an absolutely fantastic system. And the Ranger Roll is so much more than just a lightweight summer sleep system, because this thing has a lot of versatility and can be used for a load of different things, both out in the countryside and at home. Now, one of the really obvious uses is as a really luxurious picnic blanket, because this thing is absolutely massive and it's easily big enough for a family to come on here. And particularly if you're on your own though, this thing is absolutely lovely to use. Now, it is a little bit heavier than a regular picnic blanket, but it is also that much larger. And depending on your use case, I think it's absolutely worth it. Because if you were watching the sunset or maybe watching the stars, and I know I'll be doing that later on this month because there's the Perseus meteor shower coming overhead, and you start to get a little bit cold, well, you've got plenty of material here. You can just throw it over yourself, snuggle down into this blanket, and you're going to be nice and comfortable while you watch the stars. And if you take the items by themselves, starting off with the military poncho, that is probably one of the most versatile bits of kit you can actually carry in the outdoors because it has so many uses. You can use a poncho to replace your rain jacket and your rucksack cover. You can make a shelter in its own right, like a lean-to or a plough point. You could use it as a ground sheet. You could make a windbreak from it. If you just wanted somewhere dry to sit down, you could just drape it over a log. You could even make a stretch out of this to recover one of your dogs or another person, should you see them. It's the sort of thing where the more you look into it, the more uses you can find for a military poncho. Now, the poncho liner, I also find a lot of uses for this outdoors. I use it as a pillow when I'm camping. Sometimes if I'm getting cold, I'll throw it over myself as like an extra layer. And also if I'm camping with my dogs in a little 2-man tent, then I will use that as a tent carpet. One, it gives the dogs just a little bit of insulation, but it also protects the tent floor from their sharp claws. So while I think the Ranger Roll system has limited use as a sleep system, apart from that really kind of hot, tropical, balmy nights that we're having, outside of that, I think it's quite limited. It has so much versatility elsewhere that I think it is still really worth buying and carrying and using, even when you're not planning on overnighting, because as well as being used as a picnic blanket, you know, this will replace your sort of survival bag as well. It'll give you that kind of extra warmth should you run into problems, even though you're not planning on staying overnight. That would make a decent emergency shelter too. So thanks very much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time.